and Merry Christmas. This year is almost over, and I wanted to talk about everything that I have experienced this year because it has been a shit show to say the least. So 2025 was still is the year of the snake. What is the year of the snake, you might be asking? It is based on the Chinese calendar, and if we ask the Google AI overlord, it says 2025 is the year of the wood snake in the Chinese zodiac, starting January 29th, 2025 and lasting until February 16th, 2026, symbolizing transformation, wisdom, and renewal, combining the snake's intuition with wood's steady growth, offering chances for new beginnings and personal developments, but requiring careful, strategic action. So, it is a year of shedding what no longer serves, shedding the old, making room for the new. Next year is supposed to be the year of the horse, specifically the year of the fire horse. So to my understanding, that means it's going to be go, go, go. And just so we both know, I'm going to go ahead and Google what is the 2026 year of the horse meaning. And so just to let you know, it says the 2026 is the year of the fire horse in the Chinese zodiac, starting with the Lunar New Year on February 17th, 2026 and ending February 5th, 2027, bringing energetic themes of passion, bold changes, and innovation, perfect for new beginnings and pursuing big goals. And I think that's pretty fitting because this year of 2025, which let me remind you, that said it goes until February 17th, or I think 16th, that goes until February 16th, 2026, meaning that this year, even though on our calendar that says it's going to end on December 31st into January 1st, the Chinese zodiac calendar year technically doesn't end until February 16th going into February 17th of 2026. At the beginning of our calendar year of 2025, I was living in Orlando, Florida, and I had just started a new job. It would have been December of 2024. I started a job at a show production company, and they were based out of San Diego, California, and they had a location in Orlando, Florida. Leading up to this point, I had applied for so many different jobs that I think my email, when you typed in the word Indeed, it was around 3,000. I stopped keeping count a long time before that, and so I don't know how accurate that number is. Just know I've applied for hundreds and thousands of jobs between the year of 2023 and 2025. So my job title was warehouse audio supervisor, which sounds way fancier and way more important than it actually was. So I had started this job, and I became really, really good friends with one of who will now be a lifelong best friend. His name's Owen, and he and I started the same day, and we instantly clicked. At the time, I was living in a very small studio house. It was basically a big rectangle that was one bedroom, basically. It was one bedroom with one bathroom. The only door that led to a different room would have been the bathroom. And I was living with my then girlfriend, now fiance, and my cousin. And we were all sharing this tiny house to save on money because it is incredibly expensive to live in Orlando, Florida, or anywhere in Florida for that matter. We were all pretty unhappy living there, but we're trying to make the best out of it. And we knew that something had to give. So I had gone and went on a trip with my mom, and I think it was probably February of this past year, and we met up in Live Oak. So just for reference, I am from Panama City, Florida, which is in the panhandle of Florida, and then so that's where all my family's at. And then I was living in Orlando, Florida, which is down in central Florida. If you go halfway to both of those points, you will end up at a place called Live Oak. There's not a whole lot to do there, but I have actually spent a lot of time in that area. When I used to work in the motorcycle industry, there was a swap meet that we used to go to every first of the month. It was called the Webster Swaporama. We met there and spent some time in the woods, and we walked on trails and we talked, and I got a lot off my chest at that time and had kind of just vented to her about where I am in life and how I was unhappy. And at the time, I thought I was gonna be a music artist. I mean, I guess technically I am still a music artist, but I thought that was gonna be my main pursuit. Again, I highly recommend if you ever get the chance to go. It's a great bar. It's not everybody's cup of tea. It is one of the only bars you can actually smoke cigarettes in. And at the time, I drank and smoked cigarettes and loved listening to live music. So I would go into this little dingy basement hole-in-the-wall shithole of a bar and smoke cigarettes and drink $2 PBR tall boys, and I would just listen to these musicians play, listen to these bands. And I realized when I was watching these guys that music wasn't what I was going to be pursuing in the long run, because I think everyone who had ever played there that I saw anyway was a much better musician than I will probably ever be in my entire life. And this isn't an insult to them at all. It's just an insult to the way the music scene is set up and the way that artists are so underappreciated. And these people were in their 30s, 40s, and beyond. And here I am at the time, 26 years old, watching these guys thinking, if they're this good and they're stuck here playing at this bar and that's it, then who am I? Who am I ever going to become? This idea of a rock star at the time is kind of what I had in my mind of, you know, I was really inspired by the Black Keys, and I wanted to be like Dan Auerbach when I got older. I wanted to go play in a band, a small 2-piece, maybe 3-piece band, and I wanted to tour, and I wanted to go play all over the world, and I wanted to give a big middle finger to everyone who ever doubted me. And obviously that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. So I kind of put that dream on the back burner because I realized that's kind of unrealistic, and I'm pursuing that for the wrong reasons. And the problems that I would have to face in order to deal with having that dream, they're not problems I want to deal with. I don't want to be away from everyone I know on tour all the time. I don't want to be around toxic people getting fucked up in shitty bars and playing for just enough money to put gas in the tank to get to the next gig. Like, that's not really what I envision my life being. So I have put that kind of aside and moved on. So back to visiting my mom in Live Oak, I had this idea on the way back from that. I was by myself for 3.5 hours driving, and I realized that I'm tired of fucking paying rent in Orlando, and I'm tired of living with, you know, people that there was no privacy in the room. It wasn't that I didn't like living with other people, it was that there was no privacy at all. And I wanted better for myself. I wanted to have the ability to do this kind of stuff. I wanted to have the ability to play video games and stream and be up all hours of the night. I mean, it's 5:30 in the morning right now, and I'm able to do this. I wouldn't have been able to do that back then. And so I had this grand idea of buying a camper. I was gonna buy a camper. My mom and my stepfather were, at the time, I thought they had given it to me, but it turns out it was just a loan of using a Jeep that they owned. So I thought, okay, I will buy a camper and pull it with this Jeep, and my partner and I will get remote jobs, and we'll be able to travel, and we can focus on our music, and we can focus on making YouTube content, and we can focus on, you know, not spending every fucking dollar we have on rent and utilities, because that was what was happening, or at least it felt like. And if we wanted to upgrade to a bigger place to live somewhere else, it was going to be even more expensive, and we were already struggling as it was. So after I presented this idea to my mother, she decided she wanted her Jeep back. So I decided, okay, well, I guess I am shit out of luck, because I sold my Toyota Tacoma that was paid off. That was, ran okay. And I decided I was going to buy a van instead. So I didn't have a car and decided to buy a van, and it was a 1996 Dodge Ram B2500 V6. That probably means nothing to most of you, but if you are into cars or you're into vans, you probably understand that that is not the best option of a van to buy. At the time, I did not know that. So came across this good deal. And at the time, I knew that I was going to downsize, right? I knew I had to downsize my entire life. So I started selling off things that no longer served me. I started selling off things. I was selling instruments. I was selling furniture. I was selling clothes. I sold my computer. I had these Yamaha, I think it was Y8s or something, or V8s. I don't even remember what the hell they're called, but they were really nice studio monitors and stands that I had stupidly gone into debt to obtain. And I sold all this stuff so that I could buy a van and build it out and turn it into a camper. And that's exactly what we did. And so from March till May, which our lease ended the end of May, so we had to be out June 1st, basically, we had to be somewhere else or we were going to be homeless. And so that was enough to light a fire under my ass and really put everything I had, every spare dollar, every spare moment, every spare day, everything I had, I put into this van. And I had pretty much gotten rid of, I would say 90 to 95% of the things I owned. I had a huge record collection that I had been collecting for a decade and a half, actually, at that point. And I gave it all away. I gave all my records away. I gave a bunch of them away to my cousin. I gave a bunch of them away to Owen that I mentioned earlier that I worked with. I gave a bunch of them away to Remix Records on Mills in downtown Orlando. I had a ton of houseplants that I also gave away. I had gotten rid of everything that I owned, everything that I built an identity around. I downsized my closet. I downsized my physical belongings of, hey, if it doesn't serve a purpose, if this is not a mobile thing, if this doesn't fit in this small van and it's not going to serve me in a daily use, then I've got to get rid of it, unfortunately. And so I did. And I pretty much got down to the point that if it didn't fit in this van, then I am not bringing it with me. And so May comes around. I guess leading up to this point, we spent a lot of time doing the remodel. We did a lot of remodel and painting and building and cutting, and there was a lot of mechanic work that had to be done. I replaced the entire cooling system on it, water pump, the radiator 3 times. That's a story for another time. I don't really feel like going through all that, but don't ever buy radiators from anywhere other than an auto parts store because you will be fucking disappointed and have to replace it more times than you care to count. And then I also had gotten in an argument with, it didn't get to a physical altercation, but it got close with our landlord because he was a boomer prick, is the best way to put it. And he had a sense of entitlement that was like no other. And so I decided, fuck this guy, fuck this house, fuck Orlando, fuck Florida. I'm going to live in a van and I'm going to go travel and go do whatever I want and be whoever I want to be and let go of all this baggage, right? As we talked about earlier, the year of the snake is about transforming and about shedding things that no longer serve you, shedding your skin, if you will. And so I did. I shed everything in the first 5 months of this year. In June, we decided, okay, we're living in a van full time. And we were living in Walmart parking lots. And we were showering at Planet Fitness, and we were eating at whatever fast food place was around because we realized we can't cook in a Walmart parking lot, or you're technically not supposed to. The shocking thing about this is we were not the only one living in a vehicle in a Walmart parking lot. Matter of fact, every Walmart parking lot we decided to sleep at, or Home Depot. Also, I actually shit in a Home Depot parking lot one night. I got wine drunk and woke up in the middle of the night, and my stomach was fighting me something fierce, and I had no other options but to shit on a tree at a Home Depot parking lot. So that was a thing. And then I stepped out of the van, and there was fucking ants all over the ground for some reason, and it was just, the next morning I woke up and I had to run to the very back of the Home Depot store to go shit again. It was, you're probably clicking off this video by now, but just know that it was a rough time for everybody involved. And so we had this trip planned in, I think it was June or July. It was June. So we had this trip planned for June. So we were going to go, originally we were going to go up to the Northeast, go visit north of Florida, go visit my family, Northeast, visit other part of my family, and go up to Ohio and Indiana to visit her family. And we had to cut a part of that leg off because we didn't have the money that we needed, that we didn't have the money that we thought we would have. So on our way to Panama City, we realized that there is a major problem with this van. It is burning a excessive amount of oil. I checked the oil and it was low. And by low, I mean it wasn't even on the dipstick. So I put a quart of oil in, and then I checked it again, and it still wasn't on the dipstick. So I put another quart of oil in, and it finally got to where we needed to get. So I realized we had a problem. We came to the realization that this van was burning a lot of oil. That can be based on a few different factors. It probably has worn out piston rings, and the valve seals are probably worn out as well. You could see a little bit of smoke coming out of the exhaust whenever you really gun it. So we kind of were a little stressed about that, but just knew we needed to get to Panama City. So it took us 12 hours to go 6 hours or 7 hours, because we kept having to stop and baby this thing along. And we're driving two different vehicles, by the way. I'm driving my mom's Jeep so I can give that back to her, and we're driving this van. Alicia was driving the van, and had all the cats and everything else in it. And so we are putzing along and refilling the oil every chance we stop. We end up getting back to Panama City, and I take it to my mechanic buddy, Joe, and he tells me that this was a bad decision to buy this van. He tells me that these vans are notorious for having issues, and that he thought about telling me beforehand when he saw the Facebook post that I bought this van, but decided not to. And I wish he would have, because I would have just changed directions then. But it's not anybody else's fault but mine. It is my fault for doing this. It is my fault for being where I'm at in my life right now. And we'll get to that in a minute. But so I asked him, I said, okay, you're in my position, right? You just sold everything you owned, and you poured all of your money and time and effort and energy into this van, and you have to make a decision on what to do next. What do you do? And he said, well, I would park it and live in it and save my money to buy a new van and then do it all over again. And I said, okay, well, that's not really an option. He goes, well, your other option would be to sell it and try to recoup some of your money. Okay, well, even if I sold it for what I bought it for, I'm still short about $5,000 because that's how much money we put into it. So he goes, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I don't really have a good suggestion for you. So, after that, I kind of just laugh about it, because what else are you going to do? I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be, it's what do you do? So we did what anybody else would do, and we went to Whataburger and ate cheeseburgers about it. And just kind of had a giggle. That this is where we were at. So we slept in my mom's driveway for a week and tried to decide what we were going to do, trying to come up with a plan, praying to God, asking for direction and asking for guidance on what the next step was supposed to be. And I turned 27 and I was incredibly sick. And I don't even know if it was from exhaustion or sleep deprivation or if it was from depression or what it was from, but I was very, very sick on my birthday. And I didn't leave the couch because I felt so ill. It could have also been sun poisoning because I did go to the pool the day before. But regardless, we have to go back to Orlando to get Alicia's car. And by this point, I've already let my new job that I'd only been at for 6 months know that, hey, unfortunately, things with the van didn't work out, and I'm not coming back to Orlando. I'm going to come back to get this car that's parked in your parking lot, but I am not going to be working at this job because I'm not going to be residing in Orlando. Thanks for the memories. Which ended up being fine because that location of that company ended up closing a few months later and laid everybody off. And I would have been fucked either way. So if I stayed in Orlando and stayed in the situation that I was in and stayed at that job, I would have been right back in a shitty situation just a few months later. So we drive my mom's Jeep back down to Orlando after just driving 8 hours there and now another 6 or 7 hours back. We get Alicia's car, we drive all the way back, drop off the Jeep. Then we take her car and drive all the way up to Ohio, which is where I'm living now. And we're visiting her family. And while we're there, her sister, who owns the house that we live in now, kept offering. She's like, hey, you guys should move in. You guys should move in. You guys should move in. Hey, you guys should move in. I know you're having problems with your van. You guys should move in. I'll rent this room out to you. So after hearing that several times, I looked at that as divine intervention and decided, you know what? I think that this is where we're supposed to be. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's just change everything that we had planned and move to Ohio and get jobs, and we'll just figure it out. And that is what we've been doing, is just figuring it out. So we continue the trip. We fly back down to Panama City, and my mom had an evasive surgery at some point. She was fine. It was it wasn't that big of a deal, but I had to help, I got to help my mom in her recovery process. And we drove the van back up to Ohio. And on our way to Ohio, we stopped in Newport, Kentucky, on the right on the edge of where Cincinnati, Ohio, and Kentucky meet. And there's a river that divides it. And I'd been driving so fucking long and traveling so much to this point, and we had 2 hours to get back home. And I said, you know what? Let's just stop at a Target. Let's go walk around and I'll stretch my legs. So we do, and we get back in the van, and I'm on the phone with Owen, and unknowingly, what the fuck? And I unknowingly turned the steering wheel while it was off, but the key was in the ignition. And when it did that, it activated the safety security feature, which in a normal car, you should be able to jiggle the keys and then unlock it. But on this piece of shit, it decided to lock indefinitely. We were stuck in a Target parking lot and could not go anywhere. So you're not supposed to technically camp in a Target parking lot, but even if the cops showed up, hey, sorry, dude, we can't really go anywhere right now. I'm planning on fixing it in the morning. So I call AutoZone. Well, first let me back up. So we go into Target and we grab some food. I think I had a salad, and Alicia had a can of cold Chef Boyardee. and I call AutoZone, and they have a new cylinder lock, which is the part of the actual, it's a new key and a new cylinder that the key goes into that you should be able to turn it and start the car. Great. They can get it shipped from a different AutoZone to get to the AutoZone that was in walking distance, and I'll go get it and I'll fix it tomorrow. So we could not have broken down in a better area, because there was right across the street, there was a Planet Fitness. So we were able to shower the next morning, which, by the way, I should mention, the van was full of shit also. So it wasn't like we're just camping out in our van. It was, we're camping out in our van, but there's also all these tools that I own and all these guitars and all this other shit that I hadn't gotten rid of yet, because I have had more money invested in these items than I would ever see, even if I tried to sell them on Marketplace or a pawn shop or anywhere else, right? So I decided to keep these items. Never sell your tools. Keep your tools, keep whatever. Next door to the Planet Fitness, there was Ace Hardware, which I had to go to because there was a specific tool that I needed that I didn't own, surprisingly. So we knocked those two birds out with one stone, and then walked our happy asses right over to Panera Bread and decided to have breakfast there. From that point, it was kind of a waiting game. I went ahead and took the steering wheel apart so I can get to the lock cylinder, and I was waiting on AutoZone to give me a call back and say, hey, we got your part. I should also mention that this was the day before 4th of July. So everywhere was closing relatively early compared to when they normally do. I go to AutoZone, I get whatever it is that I need, and I get back to the car, and I'm trying to put it all back together, and what I realized is there is another piece that I need. So you have your lock cylinder with your key, and it slides into this other mechanism, and together they make your car turn over. Well, I thought I would be able to just get the lock mechanism or the lock cylinder out of the locking mechanism, and I was sorely mistaken. So from there, I had to call around and figure out who else had this other part that I needed. I had walked a total of 5 miles up to this point. No, I walked a total of 10 miles to this point, because I had walked to and fro AutoZone and the Advanced Auto Parts store a couple of times by this point. Well, in downtown Cincinnati, it wasn't even downtown. It was the ghetto of Cincinnati, I later found out. They had one, and I had to go get it. Like now, or we were going to be stuck here for another night, and I really wanted to get back home to where we were going to be living. So I'm wearing these like shitty Bobo Crocs. They're not even real Crocs. They're like $5 Chinese knockoff Crocs from Ollie's, the superstore, the bargain superstore. And I decide I'm going to walk. And I'm going to walk 4.5 hours because I am almost out of money at this point, and I really don't want to pay for a lift. And on my walk there, I saw a really cool building. It was called the Thompson House. It is where the man who invented the Tommy machine gun, he grew up there. He lived there. And they now use it for music videos, and I'm sure people can do YouTube shit there. I think it was also set up for like a venue for doing like live shows and different things. I thought it was pretty cool. So I walk probably about an hour to 2 hours, and I am able to feel the metal grates that are in downtown Cincinnati coming through my shoe. I have walked so much that I've worn a hole in my shoe, and it is really hurting, and I decided, well, I probably should go ahead and get a lift. Well, Alicia, because the genius that she is, she told me that, did you know you can pay for 2 lifts with one? And I'm probably wording that wrong, but you can go to 2 different locations and pay for the same lift. So in my little dumb pea brain, I thought I had to pay for a lift to go from point A to point B, and then pay for a second lift to go from point B to point C, which point C would be back to the van. That was not the case. I could do it all in one. So I'm walking through like downtown Cincinnati. It's Extremely sketchy. I walk to a corner store where I go in to get a Coca-Cola and a water because I am parched by this point. It's also raining, and the guy at the counter is talking to his buddy about how he got shot and stabbed. And this guy has a button-up shirt open, and there is just scars all over him. And so he had been through the ringer, to say the least. So I get a lift, and this lift takes me to AutoZone, and we have to go through some really sketchy areas that when I was looking out the window, I was realizing, oh, hey, I'm glad I didn't walk through here because I probably would have gotten robbed. We pull up to AutoZone, and he goes, oh, that's funny. I actually need something from here too. And I was like, well, cool. I'm glad that worked out for you. So I get the part. I'd already called and had them put it on hold. I get the part. He takes me back to the van, and within an hour, I have it running. And I clocked it, and we were there for a full 24 hours, on the dot, 24 hours, from breaking down to getting it back going and getting back on the road. It was a full 24 hours. Got back to Ohio, where we were going to stay. It was right outside Columbus, and passed out. The following week, we spent our time applying for jobs and looking for employment so we could pay our bills. We were able to waltz right into a Harley-Davidson dealership and get hired on the spot. I have about 9 years experience working in the motorcycle industry, so it was kind of a no-brainer for them. I came to find out that, no shit that they hired us because they were really struggling to keep people employed because of poor management. So we worked at Harley for, I think, 3 months. It was from July to October. When September came around, I was pretty over my job by that point, and my fiance's father came to visit and was belligerently drunk, and I'm going to save the details, but I ended up having to call the cops on him. And when I saw how belligerent he was, I decided I don't want to ever be like that. So I quit drinking alcohol, and when I quit drinking alcohol, I was able to also quit smoking cigarettes. I'm not saying that this is going to be a definite permanent thing for the rest of my life. I don't know. I definitely feel better without it, and my wallet is a lot thicker without it, but I don't know. I feel like maybe one day I'll be able to casually drink again, but I gave up these two habits. Also, around the same time, I think it was October when I gave up social media. I got off Facebook. I got off Instagram. I was already off of TikTok and Snapchat by that point. And so I was shedding more things that just didn't serve me anymore. Come October, we decided to go to Red River Gorge, Kentucky, which they do a marathon there every year, and Alicia's mom participates in it, and her uncle and other people in the family that participate in it. So we went there to support them and to camp and just get away from Ohio for a minute because I was really, really homesick for a place that doesn't exist. And being in the gorge fixed that for me, or at least scratched that itch for me. And I just spent some time meditating, and I spent some time praying that my manager at the Harley dealership was a real son of a bitch for no reason. He was just very mean for no reason to everyone. It was because he was so miserable with his own life that he wanted to make everybody else's life around him that feel the same way. So I basically asked God, I was like, hey, I don't want to be around this guy anymore, and I want you to remove him from my life. And my silly little mind thought, well, they're going to fire him and they'll make me parts manager, because they had been talking about it since basically the first month that we had gotten hired, how the guy that was in charge didn't want to be parts manager anymore. And because I have enough knowledge and experience, they were going to move me up into that position. And I was gladly accepting. I was excited. I was like, yeah, sure, more money, more whatever. Like, it's going to look good on my resume, I guess. Like, who cares? Anyway, so I get back to Ohio, and I get really depressed when we get back. And I quickly realize that things are going to change. because nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So I had this feeling of confidence, empowerment, and knowing that if I wanted to get this guy out of my life, because at the time he was the only thing really bumming me out. Like everything else was fine. Everything else was going, like, I'm not gonna say it was great. I'm not gonna say it was awesome, but everything else was fine. It was just this one dickhead that was really just not, he was killing my vibe. And so I had this feeling that my time there had expired, and Alicia was also not happy there, and they had hired and fired several people since us being there, and the short amount of time that we were there, they were cutting hours. They were barely hanging on by a thread. Like, I really would not be surprised if I look back in a year from now and see that they have permanently closed their doors or sold to a different company, because they just really were not, they're not good. They're not good people. They're not good business practices. They're just, it's not good. Moving on from that, I quit my job. We both did. We had no plan. We had no backup plan, no idea what we were going to do. We just decided, hey, fuck this. We're not happy. We're quitting our jobs. It's that easy. It actually is. It's that easy. And I say it like that because there's a lot of people that stay at jobs that they hate, bitch about their job constantly, but then do nothing to change it. They just stay at the same bullshit job and just are stuck being miserable. So we quit our jobs. We walk into a Hobby Lobby. We get hired at Hobby Lobby. We work at Hobby Lobby for 1 week, and I'm over it. I should also mention that same day that we got hired on at Hobby Lobby, we also walked into Cabela's, and we did they were doing open interviews at Cabela's. So we did an interview, and I basically told him, I was like, hey, this is the situation we're in. Like, we'll pretty much take whatever job at this point. Like, I don't care. Like, we'll do whatever. And he's like, well, we might have a spot for doing overnight, like, stocking and freight and whatnot. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, we'll do that. I said, the only thing is we both have to be on the same schedule because we share a vehicle, because we only have one working vehicle. I also forgot to mention that when we got the van here, it soon stopped working again because of a fuel issue. I have yet to fix that, but when the weather warms up a bit, I'm going to tackle that and try to get this van sold. So if anybody wants to buy a van, you can email me at dinkpossums@gmail.com, and I'll give you a hell of a deal on it. You'll get a van for a steal compared to what I've put into it. They tell us at Hobby Lobby that we're going to have to learn how to work the cash register. And I don't know if you guys know anything about Hobby Lobby, but because they're like hardcore Christians, they're afraid of numbers. It's silly, I know. But they're afraid of, so when you buy an item, I wish I had something. Here's a bad example, but here's my plugs. There's a barcode right here. And on that barcode, even though the sticker's ripped off, there are numbers. And sometimes those numbers, because they're randomly generated, sometimes those numbers will be really scary. And they'll say 666. And that's the devil's number. Oh, you're going to go to hell because that's the devil's number. We can't put that on our merchandise of Santa Claus. They don't even have Halloween decorations. I had to tell a lady while I was there. She goes, hey, where's your Halloween decorations? I said, I'm sorry, we don't sell Halloween decorations. We just sell fall decorations. It's fall, y'all, decorations. Hobby Lobby is the type of place that you think you're getting a deal when you go there, but they actually just put shit straight from the truck to the floor marked at half price. They don't even, there's not even a full price and then it gets marked down. No, it goes straight from the truck to 50% off. So you feel like you're getting a deal. You're not getting a deal. Quit shopping at Hobby Lobby. The place sucks. So they told us, hey, you're going to learn how to work the cash register. We're going to do training. And they said, who do you want to train first? I said, well, I guess Alicia, because I'm not fucking doing it. I didn't tell them that, but that was what I was thinking. So they trained Alicia, and she stood at the counter all day long for 8 hours working cash register, where you cannot scan, boop, There's none of that. There's no scanning because there's no UPCs on anything. There's no barcodes on anything. You have to physically take an item and go, okay, holiday, $12.99. Okay. Okay. Grab the next thing. Necklace. $6.99. Okay. Grab the next thing. I would rather cuddle a shotgun than do that for 8 hours. You're out of your fucking mind. So we quit that job because I'm not doing that. I decided, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I am not doing that shit. Alicia was miserable. She hated it. She was like, this really sucks. And they were we had like our 2 days off, and then they were going to train me that next day when we came in. It would have been like our Monday. And I was like, no, I'm just going to no call, no show, because fuck you is why. Fuck you. I don't owe you an explanation. So, moving on from that, what happened after that? We did get hired on with Cabela's right after that. So I called Cabela's and I said, hey, just checking in. And they said, oh, yeah. If you guys want to come in and do your background check, we'll do your drug test, do whatever else. And I said, okay, cool. So get all that done. And we start working at Cabela's. And that's what we're currently working, is doing overnight replen and stocking and whatever at Cabela's. And it's fine. It's fine. It's an okay job. Hell of a discount. Really killer discount. And not having to talk to people, like when I say people, I don't mean people. I mean like the general public people. That's been awesome because it's very draining to work a retail job and have to deal with the general public, especially in Ohio, of all places. So that pretty much sums up this year, I guess. It truly has been a shedding for us. I have let go of a lot. I've let go of a lot of materialistic things. I've let go of addictions. You know, I quit social media. I quit smoking weed. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit drinking alcohol. I have quit several jobs, and I gave up on a dream of following, you know, being an artist, being a music artist, and what that life would look like. And so I guess that brings me to now, on Christmas morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and what I want for my life going forward. And it's this. I want to keep making content. I want to keep making videos. I want to keep talking. And so when I started this podcast, right, when I started Have You Considered, I had the idea in my head that I was going to do 10 episodes, and then I was going to see if I wanted to keep doing it or not. I was going to do seasons of 10 episodes. So here we are at the end of season 1. And this was an unspoken thing. I never told anybody this. It was just something I had in my own head of like, I'm going to do 10 episodes. I'm going to see where I'm at, and then we'll make a decision if I want to keep doing this or not. And I've realized through this show, through doing Have You Considered, through the evolution of it, it started with a very, very scripted, short and sweet podcast. And as time went on, it kind of turned into this unscripted, partially scripted, partially not scripted show of talking about whatever I want to talk about. And it's shown me how I actually do want to create content. Like, it's shown me that I want to do deep dives. I want to do this fucking light, man. It's taught me a lot. It's not only about the subjects of interest, but it's taught me that I do want to do this full time. I want to make content. I want to be able to put more videos out. I want this to be a video format thing, right? I want to be able to do my deep dives, but I realized that basing it around a podcast has also kind of put me in a box. It's put me in a corner of like, it has to be in the format of, have you considered this, that, and the other thing, or have you whatever. It's got this, like, there's a formula to it, right? And that's a good thing. That's structure. We need structure in our lives. We need structure in what we're doing and what we're creating. But I just realized that I can't explore the other things that I want to explore when it comes to content creation. Like, I have ideas for doing like reviews of different things, reviews of movies and different things I'm interested in. And I want to talk about like different random subjects that maybe they are a shallow puddle. They're not as broad of an ocean to dive into. And I feel like doing a podcast episode on that is kind of overkill, I guess. Like Hobby Lobby, I could do a whole rant and ramble and video on Hobby Lobby, but I can't necessarily fit that into a podcast have you considered format. And same thing with like ranking. I want to do some ranking videos where I'm like, maybe I watch all of the movies of a certain series and then I rank them in what I think is best to worst, or different drinks or foods or candies or whatever. Like, I've got all these ideas. And then there's other ideas where I just want to get on here and yap. I just want to put the fucking thing on and just talk and not really have an agenda. And it is hard for me to do that when I'm focusing on this podcast, right? When I work 10 hours a day, that's gone. Those 10 hours are gone. I don't get those back. That belongs to Cabela's, right? And that's how I can survive and keep doing this and have a roof over my head and have food on the table and be able to put gas in the car, right? Like, that's not up for debate. That's not up for, I can't change that. I can't change that part of it. But when I'm doing this podcast, it honestly, like, it takes me sometimes 3 or 4 days to get this podcast done. Because I'll have a day where I'm doing my research and I write my script, and then I have another day where I'm recording, and then I'll have another day where I'm editing and filling it in. And like, I mean, it took me 8 hours to do the editing part of the one I did a couple weeks ago about video game nostalgia. And it doesn't seem like it's really fitting into my life right now, like the way I thought it would. Maybe if I stuck to like the short 10, 15 minute episodes like I did in the beginning, then yeah, maybe it would fit in. But I feel like I kind of grew out of that in a very quick amount of time. Like, I feel like I was doing it, and then I was like, this doesn't feel right. It feels like I need to evolve, right? Like, you should always be evolving. Like, we as people should always be evolving. And I feel like as part of my evolution as a creative is to listen to my intuition, is to listen to that voice inside of me, to listen to my higher self, and to recognize when there's resistance with things, right? If there's resistance, or if there's something that feels like it's ran its course, or something that feels like it's not fitting anymore, or I'm having to force it, or it's not working anymore, you have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, what's going on with this? Does this still need to be in my life? And the answer for have you considered is no, not right now. And I'm not saying I won't ever pick this show back up and do it again, because believe me, I want to. But I feel like I'm being called to just make videos right now. I stepped away from the music thing. I stepped away from the motorcycle thing. I've stepped away from the van thing. Now I'm stepping away from the podcast thing. And I feel like all that's left is this right here, is making videos, just talking, letting whatever needs to come through. Whether you want to call that a channel, whether you want to call that divine intervention, whether you want to call that some asshole with a microphone. This is what I feel like I'm being called to do. And this is what I feel like I'm the most myself. is when I'm doing this kind of thing. And so I'm putting an indefinite pause, an undisclosed amount of time on this show, on Have You Considered? And I'm going to keep posting videos. I'm going to keep posting content. My goal is to keep posting something once a week, if not twice a week. And I think if I let go of this, then it will allow me time to maybe I have the ability and energy to make a couple of different videos. But right now, with working a full-time job and the holidays, and my sleep schedule's been completely flipped around because I'm working, I'm awake during the night and I'm sleeping during the day. But because we're doing holiday stuff with everybody else, you have to kind of flip that around because everybody else is up during the day and they sleep at night. So now you're having to be awake during the day, but you're normally sleeping at that point. So now you're just fucked and you're tired, and I'm exhausted. If I'm being completely vulnerable and transparent with you, I am fucking tired. So I say all that to say, 2026 is going to be an awesome year. And I want to remind you that the year of the snake does not end until February 16th. So there is probably going to be more stuff to shed between now and then because it's December 25th. We still have a month and a half to go, baby. 2026 is going to be awesome, though. I have goals and ambitions and plans that I'm actively working towards. And this is a big part of it. Making YouTube content. Becoming a part of the YouTube community. Finding my community. Finding my people. You know, that's been one of the hardest things about living in Ohio is I don't have anybody here. I don't have any family here. I don't have any friends here. The people that I've tried to become friends with have totally been just shitheads and stabbed me in the back or have done me wrong or they're just garbage people. And unfortunately, we have to go through a lot of garbage people to find the gold nugget. And I went through a lot of garbage women, a lot of just trashy broads in order to find that beautiful queen over there. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her because we got engaged last weekend. Was it last weekend? The weekend before. 2 weekends ago, we got engaged. So it's exciting stuff. This next year, my biggest goal is getting the fuck out of Ohio. I want to move to Austin, Texas. That has been a dream of mine since I was probably 12 or 13. But it felt like a dream that I was never supposed to act on. It felt like a dream that I was never supposed to, like I wasn't ready for it yet. I wasn't ready to make that move. And when my cousin and Alicia and I all kind of just, when we left Orlando, right? When we were going to live in the van and my cousin moved to Austin and he loves it. And that, to me, is divine intervention of a reassurance that is where I'm supposed to be at some point. And I don't know why, but I had to be in Ohio we're at 5 months now. We're going on 6 months next month. By the time we have the funds saved up and everything else ready to do this, to make this move, it'll probably be June or July, which will be a full year that we've spent in Ohio. And I will never look back once I leave. So that's the next goal. Next goal is to move to Austin, Texas, for us to have our own place where we can make our own rules, have our own privacy. I want to be able to make some friends. I'd love to be able to make friends on here, through the internet. I think realistically, a lot of my friends are going to be made once I move to Austin. So I'm just going to keep making videos. I'm going to keep letting go of what doesn't serve me and what doesn't push me to become the best version of myself, to push me to become closer to my higher self. I'm going to keep falling more and more in love with my beautiful fiance every day. And that stinky little cat. So hi, Rio. And keep saving money to move to Austin. And keep praying that I'm being led in the right direction, in the right path. Because I feel like everything that's happened up to this point has been divinely orchestrated to get me to where I'm at right now today. So if this video resonated with you, I hope you'll share it with somebody else that you think that maybe it'll resonate with them too. Because everyone I know has been struggling this year in some manner, right? It has been a tough year for all of us in some way. And I believe that's been for a reason. I believe that's divine orchestration. I believe that there is an awakening happening on a conscious level. And we'll get into that at a later point. That's not what this video is about. But I really do believe that 2026 is going to be a kick-ass year. And that's all I got to say. So this isn't goodbye forever for Have You Considered. It's more like a see you later. And when I get to Austin, and when I get settled in, and when I get more of a foundation with what I'm doing with YouTube outside of this podcast, I'll reconsider Have You Considered. And maybe I'll do it again. But it will come back at some point. Normally at this point I say, well, I'll see you on next week's episode. Bye. But there's not going to be a next week's episode. So I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas or a Happy Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope it's a great time with family and food and fun and cats if you have cats. And I'm going to go play video games now. That's the other thing I want to get back into is streaming on Twitch. So if you have Twitch and you want to check me out, I have been streaming the Far Cry series. You can check me out on Twitch. It's the same handle, Dank Possums. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of my weird corner of the internet. And I'll see you guys whenever. I'll see you on a video next week, I guess. Bye.